Hello again, my DIY loving friends, and welcome to Medicated Housewife DIY, where crafting and mental health come together. Get ready to create cozy, high-end fall vibes without breaking the bank. We'll hack some Dollar Tree foam pumpkins and transform them into stunning seasonal decor. So what are you waiting for? Let's go DIY together. For this first DIY, I am using these wood biscuits I got at Lowe's, but I will link some similar ones for you in the description box below. I'm using 15 of these biscuits for this project. So first, I'm painting the 15 biscuits with this Apple Barrel Harvest Orange, which I will link for you below. And just a note here, unfortunately, a good part of this video has the bottom part of the screen cut off. I just wasn't paying enough attention while I was recording. My bad, but I will do my best to explain whatever I am doing that may be difficult for you to see. So my apologies for that. I did my best to work around it. I'm painting one side of each biscuit as well as the edges, but I don't need to paint the bottom sides since they will not be visible. And may I just say, and I have said this before, I don't understand why they call these biscuits. I mean, they look like wafers. I can see calling them wafers, but biscuits, I just don't get it. But that's not important. Let's just continue crafting. I basically do one generous coat of the Harvest Orange, and once that dries, I am using some Folk Art Antique Wax, which I will link for you below, with a dry, rough brush. I'm going to use the wax kind of sparingly to distress the biscuits, emphasizing the edges and a bit on the front to give them an aged appearance and to give them a little more shape and depth. I do this on all 15 of them. And here's one of those places where the bottom of the video is cut off, so again, I apologize. I'm placing 5 of the biscuits into kind of a round pumpkin-like shape. So there's 3 biscuits at the bottom kind of fanned out, and 2 at the top that are connecting together to kind of round out that shape. I use dabs of hot glue to attach those 5 pieces together, and then I'm going to flip that shape over and reinforce all of those connections with some more hot glue. Next, I take 2 more biscuits and I simply glue them side by side, and then an additional 2 biscuits to glue each one over the 3 lower fanned out biscuits, where the 3 connect to one another in 2 different places. And then I place the 2 side-by-side connected biscuits that I glued together over those on top of them, covering up the gap that's in the middle of the pumpkin shape, as you can see me doing right here. And hopefully that makes sense to you, even though it's difficult to see. I then turn it over and reinforce all of those connections with more hot glue once again. I then take 3 more biscuits and basically glue them down in a fanned out line across the bottom, and then 2 more biscuits that are layered on top of those 3. And then finally, one last biscuit, which is layered over the space that's connecting those 2 beneath it. And that is our final biscuit, giving us this layered, more dimensional pumpkin shape. I pick out this small tree branch piece from a pack at Dollar Tree, and I'm using some hot glue to attach it to that top middle part of my pumpkin so that it can resemble the pumpkin stem. I grabbed my favorite leafy jute that I use all the time, and I will link it for you below. I wrapped the jute around my hand around 4 times, and I'm using a small piece of floral wire from Dollar Tree. I wrap that jute right around the middle, leaving me with 2 loops on either end. And that, my friends, is my version of a jute bow. I know, my bows are sad, but it does get the job done. I then take another small piece of jute and I hot glue it wrapped around the middle of the bow, and that's to hide the floral wire. And voila, sad little jute bow, but please don't judge me. I hot glue that leafy jute bow to the front of the pumpkin under the stem to give it just a little bit of jute and greenery pizzazz. I'm using one of those little wood Apothecary drawers. I think that's what they're called. They're from Dollar Tree, and I'm using it as a shadow box frame for my wood biscuit pumpkin. So I hot glue that wood pumpkin to the middle inside of the drawer. And once again, I apologize for the bottom of this video being cut off. I know it is not ideal, but I fill in the sides of the frame with some moss from Dollar Tree, and I'm hot gluing that moss into place. And then I also throw in a couple of mini pine cones, also from Dollar Tree, to accent that moss. And this is my framed wood biscuit fall pumpkin, and I really like the rustic charm of this pumpkin. It has a little color, but it's pretty neutral nonetheless, and I really love that it stands up on its own for display purposes, making it perfect for both displaying on a shelf or as a freestanding element in a fall centerpiece or a tiered tray. Very versatile and stylishly festive. This next DIY begins with this plain foam pumpkin from Dollar Tree, which I am going to fully paint using this Apple Barrel Warm Buff Satin acrylic, which I will link for you below. I do end up giving the pumpkin 2 very generous coats of the paint for full coverage, and I allow it ample time to fully dry. While the pumpkin dries, I have this roll of wood veneer trim from Amazon, which I will link for you below. It's easy to cut with the scissors, and I cut a bunch of pieces that were about 9 inches long. I'm going to paint the front of each of these pieces of the veneer with some folk art antique wax, which I will link for you below as well, really saturating the front with the wax because this is actually wood and it does take the wax very nicely. And again, the bottom of my screen is cut off, so you'll have to take my word for it when I say these pieces of trim are very easy to paint, and then wipe the excess wax off with a dry paper towel. The wood trim pieces end up looking very nice and they dry really quickly. I take some more of the antique wax and using a dry chip brush, I'm going to distress paint right over that warm buff color on the pumpkin, getting into all the little nooks and crannies and just warming up the whole look of the pumpkin while giving it more of like an antique wood kind of a look overall. Next, I take my wood veneer strips and I'm using some hot glue to attach the strips inside that natural indentation on the pumpkin. I totally forgot what that part of the pumpkin is called, but by all means, refresh my memory of pumpkin anatomy in the comments. You guys always know all that stuff, so please share with me. I'm attaching the wood strips on just about all of those indented areas around the pumpkin, starting with the first 4 strips, and then we're filling in each of those quarter sections that we make on the pumpkin. And doing it this way keeps each of those quarter sections relatively even because the pumpkin itself does not have an even number of indented areas, if that makes sense. I hope it does. Also, getting the wood to stick well to the foam can be tricky, but it is totally doable. Just take your time and use a little extra glue whenever necessary. I had several extra wood veneer strips left, and I decided that I hated the way the middle seam on the foam pumpkins looked, so I figured I'd cover that seam with the same veneer as well. Using the hot glue again, I attached 2 strips around the diameter of the pumpkin so that that seam was no longer visible. I also decided to cut off that foam stem at the top of the pumpkin and replace it with one of those Dollar Tree wood branch pieces, so I picked out a nice size little stump and hot glued it on the top of the pumpkin as the stem. I had some loose leaves from a Dollar Tree fall greenery pick, so I picked out some nice coordinating colored leaves and used a little hot glue to attach them to the bottom of that stem. This also helped to cover up a little of that hot glue mess at the top of the pumpkin because I did need to use some extra glue to keep the tops of the wood veneer pieces attached to the foam. I also tied a small piece of raffia at the stem base for a more finished look. And this is my wood trimmed pumpkin, and I really love this pumpkin. It is so warm and rustic and just very woodsy in my opinion. It also has a little bit of an apple barrel quality to it, you know what I mean? Can you see that too? I don't know. Either way, I really like this one and I can't wait to incorporate it into my fall home decor. This next DIY is so easy, it's just silly. I painted this foam pumpkin from Dollar Tree fully with Apple Barrel Black Matte Paint, which I will link for you below, and I gave it 2 full coats of paint and waited for it to fully dry. I had a box of these gold thumbtacks from Dollar Tree. They come in a pack of 300, and initially I was going to use them to make a pattern on the pumpkin, but I switched gears and I decided to cover the entire pumpkin top to bottom with the tacks. So silly me tried to get more thumbtacks at Dollar Tree during back to school. I think you know that wasn't going to happen for me, and it did not. So I ended up buying thumbtacks at Amazon to finish the project. But for you guys, if you can get your hands on the thumbtack boxes at Dollar Tree, I suggest suggest you get 4 to 5 boxes to complete this project. Now all I'm doing is sticking the tacks into the foam, easy peasy. I overlap all the tacks over the ones that are next to them and below them as I'm going, and just basically want none of the black pumpkin color to be visible. Just nothing but gold metal is to be seen. Now, yes, this is slightly a time-consuming endeavor, but it is so mindless that you can easily plop yourself in front of Netflix and binge watch a show or two while completing this. That's what I did, and as I said, I started at the bottom and worked my way up to the top, including covering up that stem with the tacks. And I did this in 2 sides, like I finished one whole side and then started the other side, but you can do it however you want. The end result is going to be exactly the same. And this is my gold sequenced or studded pumpkin. Considering what it is, I really like this pumpkin. In certain lights, it almost has like a snakeskin type of a look to it, just a little different than the usual, but what a lovely fall centerpiece for evening with some candles. This would be gorgeous and so worth the tiny bit of effort involved. But as usual, I want to know what you think. Let me know in the comments which one of these Dollar Tree DIY fall vibe pumpkins was your favorite and why. I love hearing from all of you. And if you've enjoyed this DIY video, there's another one waiting for you. Just click the link on your screen for more Medicated Housewife DIYs. Thanks for watching, and until next time, my name is Sarah. I'm the Medicated Housewife, and crafting is my medication.